very much, Kingsley. I want to welcome you all tonight, expecting not a bad turnout. This is actually the first time that we've attempted to put on an event like this. It will be the first of a three-part series in the month of October. We're trying to bring together different organizations and community members who work in the field of human trafficking, the field of human rights, and we can share ideas, share with the community about what we're doing, what the future holds, and what we should all be thinking about in relation to these issues. Tonight we have excellent speakers in store for you. I'll introduce them one at a time as we get on with it. First of all, I just wanted to lay a little bit of a background. The speakers will be speaking in relation to their organizational work, their careers, and their personal feelings towards the issue of human trafficking, but I wanted to introduce it as a whole. It is a difficult topic to introduce in a short address, so the complexities of the issue make it a phenomenally difficult thing to summarize in less than a few days of straight dialogue. I just wanted to touch on a few things. First of all, the definition of human trafficking. The United Nations and many other international groups have adopted a rather precise definition of human trafficking. Mainly to suit their legislative requirements. We don't have to bore each other tonight with any of the driving banter or political narratives. Just to know that human trafficking is essentially what it sounds like. It's a human being being bought, being sold, being transported, and being treated as a commodity. Our organization knows firsthand that this is a reality of the modern world. What I'm surprised at finding as we dig deeper into the issue is that we're not talking about human trafficking as an issue that only affects the third world, that only affects impoverished nations. This is truly a global epidemic, and we need to examine it as it truly is, a global epidemic. Before we bring up the speakers, I just wanted to touch on the scope of the problem. We should know that we're not here to discuss a trivial matter. Human trafficking is a phenomenon of shocking proportions, no matter what perspective you choose to examine it. If we're talking about in terms of geography, there's very few countries on the face of the earth that are exempt from having a trafficking problem. The United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime has actually put a number on it, saying that persons from 127 countries are exploited in their countries and in an additional 10, so that there are trafficking victims being brought out of 127 countries for exploitation in 137. There are some clear international patterns that we should have an examination of. A very interesting generalization that I could make is that most of the trafficking origin countries are relatively impoverished. In fact, they're very impoverished nations, whereas the destination countries where the individuals actually end up after their exploitation and transport tend to be quite advanced economically and actually have a very intact criminal justice system. I'm just going to read a straight list of countries that have scored very high in the United Nations Index, which rates countries as a destination for trafficking victims. This is in no particular order: Belgium, Germany, Greece, Italy, the Netherlands, Israel, Japan, the United States. That's a list of half a dozen or more countries who rank at the very top for destination countries, meaning that they basically exploit the people that are being brought out of the third world and brought out of the developing nations. Compare the list that I just mentioned to this one: Ukraine, Albania, Lithuania, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Guatemala, Mexico, Nigeria, and Ghana. These 10 nations that I just listed were the ones that scored highest in the same United Nations survey, which gave an index to the countries of trafficking origin. You can clearly see that the individuals are being brought out of the most impoverished nations on earth and trafficked to some of the most wealthy. This is a problem that we all required to attend to if we're going to make a meaningful difference. Economically, trafficking is a very lucrative business. In fact, in terms of illicit activities, human trafficking ranks third. It's behind the illicit drug trade and behind the illicit black market trade of weaponry. In fact, if the current trend holds in the next year, more money will be made trading women and children on the black market than trading weapons, which is a phenomenal feat, considering that the illegal trade of weapons creates a profit for their traffickers of over $9 billion a year. We're talking about a lot of money being made. In terms of raw numbers, the State Department publishes a yearly doctrine on the issue of human trafficking. Last one that came out, they had a conservative estimate that 800,000 men, women, and children are trafficked across international borders each year. 80% of those being trafficked are women, 50% of those being trafficked are below the age of 18. This is an issue that affects women disproportionately and affects children disproportionately, in essence affecting the most vulnerable segments of society. The International Labour Organization estimates that at any one time on the face of the earth, 12.5 million people are in slave labor, in bondage situations where they cannot get out of forced prostitution, forced labor, and forced action in military conflicts. The State Department adopts a more generous estimate stating that up to 26 million people on the face of the earth are currently in bondage. So it's very interesting that 59 years after the United Nations passed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, stating no one shall be held in slavery or servitude, and going on to say slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all of their forms, we're in a position where there's more people enslaved at this time than there ever has been on the face of the earth. With that in mind, I'd like to bring up our first speaker. This is going to be Irina Soltis. She's from the Anti-Trafficking Coalition, which she is co-chair. She's also co-coordinator of Help Us Help the Children Anti-Trafficking Initiative, and she's a member of Help Us Help the Children Chernobyl Medical Advisory Committee. She's spoken widely on the issue of trafficking in the past, and in her spare time she also has a full-time job as a pharmacist at the Toronto Western Hospital. So she's welcome to the first.